Now we go to an Italian Renaissance man, Sebastiano Serlio. It's also his birthday. And, you know, this is a shorter presentation. It's mainly showing pictures of Serlio's 7 books of architecture. Born in 1475, died in 1554. He was a force at that time, even through his, you know, publicized work. So Sebastiano Serlio, born on September 6, 1475, was an Italian Mannerist architect who was part of the Italian team building the Palace of Fontainebleau in France. This I found out myself very recently. Serlio helped canonize the classical orders of architecture in his influential treatise variously known as I Sette Libri dell'Architettura, 7 books of architecture, or Tutte l'opere d'architettura e prospettiva, all the works on architecture and perspective, an ambitious work. Now, although he is called the Mannerist architect, you know, he was active at a time when the Renaissance was still on. And, you know, the frontier between Mannerism and the Renaissance is not a strong one or a rigid one, but yes, Mannerism came immediately after the Renaissance. So this is he Sebastiano Serlio? I don't know. I mean, I don't know who paid it. Is there a similarity between these two men? Here he is represented in a later day engraving. Anyway, he was an intellectual. He was a man who fought for architecture in his own terms, meaning rather theoretically through, you know, written and drawn works. The 7 books of architecture. I just show pages from this famous work by Sebastiano Serlio, which was published in many, many editions. And it's an encyclopedic work. And it's probably an interesting experience to read it, although maybe the relevance of what he says there is not very high, because we have something he didn't have, and that is Its Majesty the car. The 5 classical orders, they couldn't miss the occasion to assert themselves again. It would be nice to have again cities where you don't see cars, you know, where you can walk freely undisturbed by the speedy ones. But I guess we cannot do without them. And the industry that makes them cannot do without us buying what they produce. So he found joy, I would imagine, and necessity in investigating the history of architecture in a graphic form. So he made these books, the 7 books on architecture. Everything is drawn. Individual buildings, you know, fragments of cities, and so on. Il terzo libro, the 3rd book, you know, as opposed to Palladio, who published 4 books, Serlio published 7 books. But then he was much less busy building. This is the Basilica Palladiana in Vicenza by Palladio, since I just mentioned Palladio. This is nice about architecture, even if you don't build, but you can always draw, and you can always write, and you can always preoccupy yourself with the intellectual side, the theoretical side of architecture. Although ideally one should build. There is the true test. But maybe in today's world, maybe we should build less and think more, for a while at least. Taming man. But taming man, with the exception of his heart and mind and imagination. those should not be tamed. Serlio on domestic architecture, because he occupied himself with everything having to do with architecture. So domestic architecture was present, but here in a collective form. Il Tempietto, the great little temple by Bramante, which Palladio also drew beautifully. The Pantheon, of course, continuing to fascinate us, where maybe even the Emperor Adrian had a hand in the design of the building, it seems. He was a great connoisseur of art, an unusual emperor, very cultured and sensitive, and what can I say? I wish we have such presidents. So Sebastiano Serlio, pages from his 7 books on architecture. So you see his signature, the double S, he made the drawings and then they were engraved by other people, I imagine. Okay, so happy birthday to Sebastiano Serlio.